Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button, and if you want to submit to be on the show, take a look at the information in the description.
I have a hand from a card room in Southwest Florida.
Okay.
It's a 2-5 game, but it's quote unquote deep stacks. You can buy in a little deeper.
Okay.
And at this point, everybody's pretty deep. So we're playing 2-5 with a mandatory double straddle. So it's 2-5, 10, 20.
Okay, double straddle. And how deep are the stacks?
2,500 effective in this one.
All right, so 2,500 effective. 2, 5, 10, 20.
Right.
Okay.
I am in the double straddle, so I'm in for 20. First to act makes it 75, which is a pretty standard open. It folds around to me, and I defended, so I flick in the call.
With?
My hand is ace of spades, jack of hearts, so I have ace jack offsuit.
So double straddle, 2, 5, 10, 20, but it's mandatory, so the game's playing big, 2,500 effective, so you're just over 100 big blinds deep. You're in the double straddle. Under the gun, the effective under the gun, which is probably like the low jack-ish type of, he makes it 75, folds to you, and you call in the last blind in the double straddle with ace jack offsuit, okay?
Right, so we go heads up to a flop, and the flop is ace jack 6 with 2 clubs. So the ace and the 6 are clubs. The jack is a diamond.
So ace jack 6 with 2 clubs. So you've got top 2. And
you've got a good hand, yep.
Yep, okay.
I check, and he bets 100. The pot's 160.
All right, so he bets 100 into 160. And you've got top 2. Right. You're out of position. You're about 100 big blinds deep. It's a single raise pot. I mean, you can really look at this as like almost like a 10-20 hand at 2,500 effective. I mean, the thing that I would be thinking about is how do I get the money in here? Like, how am I getting money in the spot? Now, newer school, what I will say is that when people understand, like, have a better sense of what hands to defend with to a flop bet, like, you know, kind of what Doug Polk said like years ago, you know, you're calling with any pair on the flop, then you're folding out, you know, bottom pair on the turn, and then maybe you're only calling with top pair on the river. It's sort of like shaped like that, right? So a newer school thought, I mean, in general, I don't really want to slow play here this much from out of position. I just want to start building a pot. I think there is something to be said that your opponent actually might bet twice without an ace here just because you call. You can have gut shot, Broadway draws, you can have a 6, you can have jack X. So, you know, if you check call and the turn's a deuce or a 3 that's not a club, he very well might fire again, whereas if you just check raise here, he might not fold. But sometimes you need to have your opponent have a hand here in a spot like this. So, you know, I would probably start building now. There aren't that many clean cards either, you know, moving to the turn. I mean, it's a lot of offsuit cards below. I would say like a 7 that's not a club or something like that. So usually I would probably do a fair amount of check raising here.
Yeah, looking back, I probably should have. I did not. I elected just to call, and my plan was to check raise on any brick. I thought it was a board where he'd really have to bet any turn. You know, I think ace king has to bet any turn. A club draw has to bet a turn, and then if he has an air ball that he wants to continue firing at, then he would. So I was hoping for a brick turn and check raise at that point. Looking back, I wish I would have check raised the flop. I think that's a better play. But
yeah, I mean, I think that there are a fair amount of. I mean, I think you're going to get value from an immediate ace that's betting here. An ace isn't going to necessarily fold, and there are sort of a lot of action cards that will slow things down on the turn. So, like I said, when you have a hand, usually I want to maximize against the second best hand as opposed to letting somebody bluff off of some sort of. I mean, it's a little bit different if he was like on the button where he's much, much wider. I mean, this is like he's under the gun in this double straddled format. But okay, you call the pot to 360. Let's go to the turn.
Turn's the queen of spades.
Okay.
I check again, and surprisingly, he checks back. I didn't expect it.
So let me ask you this question. Checks back. So it's ace of clubs, six of clubs, jack of diamonds, queen of spades. So let's say he bet. And let's say he bet at least half the size of the pot. 200 or more. Okay? I know it went check, check. What are you doing if he bets on the turn?
Just check calling. I'm not check
Okay.
raising.
So you are now just kind of putting your hand into the bluff catching value ownish.
Yeah, I'm in check call mode. I'll evaluate the river, maybe a brick. I'll check call. I don't know. He's a very good pro.
So he's a good pro. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting to know.
Yeah. And I'm really the only other pro at the table. It's a pretty good recreational table for the stakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I certainly wouldn't check raise that turn.
So it's a good let me ask you, this is another live and tangible thing. It's a good recreational table for the stakes. You mean the game is good? Like there's a lot of bad players in it, you mean?
Right. There's a lot of bad players in it with very big stacks. So you don't get that too often.
So what I will say about that, if you are in this specific, here's some live wisdom. So if you two are the only pros, you two are the only good players, and you're playing in a really good recreational game, right? What will tend to happen is that the two pros tend to somewhat stay out of each other's way or overfold to each other. So sometimes you actually might need to make an adjustment where maybe even slow playing here isn't a bad thing on the flop because your opponent might fold out a hand that he wouldn't otherwise usually fold out, taking it as sort of a partial or a situation that because he doesn't need to get mixed up with you because the game is so good. And you will see that reflected.
Yeah, I mean, I even tanked a little bit pre-flop because I almost didn't defend, which is kind of crazy. But I have $20 in, so
right.
I'm probably saying I have a pretty solid hand. So,
but it's interesting that you add that. Yeah. But it's definitely interesting that you add that note in there too, because sometimes you need to tone it. Sometimes you will get more folds, and that can play into your hands too if you want to bluff a pro. I actually remember Garrett from Live at the Bike. Of course, Garrett, he did a couple of training videos for Run It Once, and I remember watching them way back in the day, and he said that he would take these spots even in good games and try to really brutalize the pros, whereas other people would sort of tend to stay away or just not get mixed up. But it's something of note. Okay, so the turn's a queen, and it goes check, check. So it's ace of clubs, six of clubs, jack of diamonds, turns a queen of spades. The pot's 360. It goes check, check. All right, let's go to the river.
It's the seven of clubs, completing the front door flush.
Okay.
I tanked for a while, and then I decided to bet on the larger side. I bet 225 into a pot of 360.
Hero bets 225. It's kind of interesting here because, I mean, are you betting here with, I'm trying to think of, well, you may not 3-bet ace king here, right? If your head's up. I don't think it's always a 3-bet. Pre-flop I'm talking about. He opens,
especially in this configuration.
Right, so you actually do have some ace kings here. So I was going to say, what are you doing with what are you doing here with ace 10, which is not aces up, in a spot like this?
I think I'm still betting, but on the smaller side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd love to check, but I think he's just going to fire if I check to him with ace 10, and he's going to blow me off the hand, and I'm going to have to make a big call.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a block bet, but I mean, this is interesting here because the front door clubs came in. I mean, obviously you have a very, very clean bet if front door clubs, I mean, you've got ace jack, right? Which is now top and middle. If front door clubs hadn't come in, you might bet here a little bit on the larger side, make it look like you might have missed club draws. The problem is here when the queen comes on the turn, some of those Broadway gut shots are sort of paired up, and I don't know if those hands are turned into bluff. So it's pretty hard for me, if I'm at the top of his range, or one of the best hands that I can have here that plays as a check back on turn, unless he's really playing a protective game where he's checking back pocket aces on the turn because he blocks all the aces, and he might think that you've got a full complement of king 10 here. If I have ace king here, if I have ace 10 here and I'm him and you bet this river, I don't know what I can, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what bluffs you have here unless you're turning queen X into a bluff. And I don't know if one pair is good. I mean, it looks a little bit crazy to think that ace jack isn't a value bet here. I'm just trying to think of, it's an awkward run out here at the end. I mean, I
Well,
think that blocking is fine.
it really is. It really is, and the check back on the turn really confused me. I mean, I really think if he has like clubs, like a pair plus club draw, he bets. If he has ace king, he bets. If he has jack queen offsuit, jack queen of clubs, he bet. So I didn't. I was kind of every street. I kind of didn't know what to do.
Well, I mean,
So
I think that he most likely would bet a set of jacks. He'd most likely would bet queen jack. If he was making a volume bet on the flop, he's going to bet probably a lot of those hands that unblock ace x on the turn. Maybe,
right,
maybe he might check back pocket aces on the turn. Maybe. And that's just because his unblocks ace x. So now clubs would be jack x of clubs. Now, say for example he had king jack of clubs here. Let's say he had jack 10 of clubs. I think that those hands would be checked back. Say jack 9 of clubs, something like that. I don't know if I would be betting there if I'm in his spot. Again, it's ace of clubs, 6 of clubs, jack of diamonds. So if I've got jack x of clubs, now the turn's a queen. You're probably, unless I'm running a 3-street bluff to try to get you off of ace x.
right.
If I've got king jack of clubs, why am I betting turn? Right? I mean, king queen. Unless I'm really turning my hand into a bluff, like I said, to get you off of ace x or a queen that gets run into with queen 10 or king queen here. So I think it's viable that he could have jack x of clubs. He probably doesn't have small clubs. I wouldn't think he would have small clubs because, yeah, you would probably continue to bet. Although maybe with the queen represented, maybe those gets checked back like an 8-9 of clubs, something like that. It just could be a situation where that card he's checking back a lot. So I don't think it's going to be crazy that he gets here. I think he can get here with some flushes. So you bet 225, and what happens?
And he tanks for a while, and then he raises to 875.
I mean, to be honest with you, if it's not a pro, then I think it's a really easy fold. You might
What's that?
I said if he wasn't a pro, I think it's an easy fold, right? If it's not a pro, it's an easy fold.
Right.
If it is a pro that is prone to sometimes making moves and shit like that, like if he's got like king queen with the king of clubs, I mean that's sort of what jumps out in my head here. King queen with
Yeah,
the
me
king
too.
of clubs, something like that. King queen with the queen of, yeah, king queen, something with the king of clubs in it.
Right.
Because would jack x of clubs raise to 875 when you lead for 225? Now it's not like you lead for pot. The other thing too is that you're leading out here at the end 225 into 360. If he's got the jack high flush, which is the third nut, right? It loses to the king high and the queen high flush. Is he raising 225 here to 875 with the jack high flush? Because we already established that you're not betting much on the river. A lot of your straight draws are paired up. I mean, you happen to have a slow play here, but you're not really going to be betting ace 10 or even necessarily ace king here at the end. Maybe ace king with the king of clubs or something like that. So what are you betting here? Like, this is one of the worst hands probably that is played this way that you arrive with that's sort of value betting, and we talked about why it's sort of awkward. So if he's sort of deep into that hand reading thought, I don't know if jack x of clubs gets raised like this here for 875. This might be a spot where he's only raising with king, the king high flush or the queen x of clubs. I can tell you, I'd probably close my eyes and call for that reason if he's a pro, and maybe he's making some play with king x of clubs. If you think he's capable of making a play, I'd probably call here. Just for that reason that I don't know if he raises the jack high flush here at the end.
Right. Like, he has to recognize he's behind. So He probably does. And then I don't know. That's why I take for so long. I just didn't know if he was doing this with the ace king with the king of clubs, or king king with the king of clubs, or king queen with the king of clubs. And
Yeah, king king with
no,
the king of clubs is another one too, where he's probably not strong
right.
enough to call. So what ended up happening?
I don't. I mean, I think he recognizes that ace king with the king of clubs isn't strong enough to call. I think,
Did
but
it, if he has ace king with the king of clubs, that it's not strong enough to call?
well, against me because we have
Right.
some history. I
Yeah.
don't. I think he knows in that configuration I wouldn't be betting 60% pot with one pair. But
I don't know if
but
ace king. I don't
he
know if the ace king with the king of clubs is taken for. If you really want to get into the war, I don't know if any hand with an ace in it is taken for a bluff though, because it blocks your aces up combos and maybe gives you maybe gives you more combinations of flushes. So what I don't know if ace king with the king of clubs is necessarily a bluff, but maybe like kings with the
yeah.
king of clubs or king queen with the king of clubs. What ended up happening?
I folded. He did not show. He was on my left. I just briefly asked him if he was turning the king of clubs into a bluff, and he said, "Oh, occasionally I'd do that." So it kind of made me think he wasn't, but I wasn't sure. So I never saw the hand. I don't know what he had. He's pretty aggressive in that I thought he would bet most of his club draws on the turn. So like the jack nine of clubs, which could be a check back, I thought he would bet it all day long, but.
And also too, I mean, just even, I mean, king. I mean, I guess he could have king queen of clubs. You would think that he would
Yeah.
bet king ten of clubs just because it's a nut hand for value. I mean, I don't know how wide he's opening. He's opening king nine of clubs, but that coupled with the fact that I don't know if the jack high flush is a raise at the end there.
Right, and I don't think he would raise. That's why I was so stuck on whether he's turning the king of clubs into a bluff because I don't think he raises the jack high flush there.
So if he doesn't raise the jack high flush, then he's going to be inherently polarized to a king high flush, basically,
Right.
or just the king of clubs. So I would probably call with your hand, getting those pot odds.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll never know. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the call. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.